The Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League Super Farm Tractors enter the home stretch of the season this week with only 3 rounds left to determine a class champion. Dan Vinnie and the Crank It Up tractor used an outstanding weekend at Hillsboro, Wisconsin to put himself in a great position to take the title with 2nd and 4th place finishes there. There are several strong contenders for the title who are hoping to put pressure on the Crank It Up team today, including Michael Snepp, Ryan Anderson, and Dan's brother, Jason Vinnie. Can anyone close the gap at Terre Haute? Find out now. Welcome to the action track here with the Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League. This is the E3 Spark Plug Shy Diesel Extravaganza presented by Optima Batteries. A couple of great categories coming your way, including the Pro Stock Diesel trucks and the Super Farms. Ken Stout and Leslie Mears here to call the action for you.
So much history here with the Shy Diesel Extravaganza. It started in 1997. It was really only for the Dodge Cummins Turbo Diesel. It was held at the Effingham, Illinois location of Shy Diesel. And they actually pulled in the yard of a church beside the shop and then had the show and shine in the dyno. So from its humble beginnings, here we go.
And earlier today, Leslie Mears spent some time with Dan Vinnie.
We're hitting the home stretch here in the Super Farm category. And Dan Vinnie, you've got 3 events left to go, and you've got a decent lead out there. What's your strategy coming in here to Terre Haute, knowing that you've got a little bit of a lead, but yet you've still got a long way to go?
There is no cushion. This changes so fast. I'm first hook tonight, and we've seen it before down here where the first hook, I think last year Don won with Don Slama with Fast and Furious won with, I think he was second hook. 2 years ago, Josh Miley down on the bottom side was almost last hook, and he won down on that side almost last. So there's no cushion. I have no idea what's going to happen tonight. I'll just do what I can and do my best.
Yeah, right now, I mean, he comes in here with a 42-point spread, and it sounds like a lot, but with all the tractors, some 17 chasing points, he could have a couple of mechanicals, only grab 25 points, and the other side of the story is Michael Snepp could have 2 good hooks. They could change so quickly. It's not over by any means. Dan certainly knows it. And the Crank It Up tractor with 5 podiums, including 3 wins, will kick off the category at 3:06 and 24.
And he does exactly what he needs to do. He puts up a great number as the test puller, but there are no slouches in this order as we take a look at the hook order for tonight. We'll see Ryan Anderson checking out as the 2nd puller of the night. Don Slama and Fast and Furious coming off a huge weekend in Hillsboro, 7th hook. And then we'll cap off the order with Slama Enterprises driven by Peter Norton.
Next up will be Ryan Anderson on the checking out tractor. A couple of podiums for this international. Oh, and he burns in with a big number. We thought the 3:06 and 24 for Dan Vinnie would be a solid number, but 3:14 and 58 might lead you to believe something other than that, because that's a much larger number, and there's a lot of tractors yet to go.
Yeah, 11 hooks so far this season, and he's been in the top 10 for all but one of them, and that was our last hook at Hillsboro, where he logged 24th. Very uncharacteristic for them. So he's been in the shop doing some R&D back there and trying to make sure he can put himself back on top.
So there's a look at the points as we talked about coming in here. Vinnie with that 42-point spread over Snepp, then Ryan Anderson, who we just saw, and then Jason Vinnie. He'll be coming up here in a little bit, and Don Slama are locked up there in a battle for 4th.
Yeah, really those top 6 guys all have an opportunity to chase down those points with these 3 hooks left.
Next score, always a player, the Screamin' Norwegian. Had an up-and-down season here, always tough and a threat to win. Just has not had the consistency he's wanted. 3:09 and 26 is the mark.
He's starting to get a little bit closer to that as they edge towards the end of the season. But for this Screaming Norwegian team, they've also got 3 guys in and out of the seat. And I wonder if you've got Sean Boyd and Justin Johnson and Nick Score out here all driving, if that makes a difference in performance and also trying to find that consistency as a team.
Well, you can also see how hard that weight box slammed the front of that sled. Josh Miley coming up here next. And Josh with a nice effort here as well, 3:08 and 44. That'll put him in 3rd place so far.
And you mentioned the weight box hitting them hard, and that's happening about the 250-foot mark. So they've really got a lug and chug out there a ways since we're seeing those distances out past the traditional full pull mark of 300 feet.
The Dime a Dozen tractor driven by Mac Darnell. 3:05 and 92 will be the distance here for Mac, and unfortunately a little bit short, much like Dan Vinnie there in the very beginning.
Yeah, we also have to remember here at the action track, this is a racetrack, and so you see these guys really trying to ride the right-hand side of the track because they know it's going to pull them down towards the left just a little bit because of the natural slope of the track. And of course, our guys out here, you know, with the Grow Grader trying to make it as flat as possible, but you're still going to have that naturally as the moisture is coming up from the track underneath.
Well, we saw Dan Vinnie before. This is Jason Vinnie on the all cranked up versus Dan Vinnie's crank it up. And boy, there is no question. Dan learned something, came over to Jason, told him what to do, and Jason goes 3:13 and 17 and jumps into 2nd place.
Yeah, and he's had 2 top 3 finishes in the last 3 hooks and a 10th sandwiched in between there. And so really hitting his stride in Hillsboro. You know, he was kind of down in the dumps about his performance so far this season, but a good weekend picked him up and he's on his way now.
Yeah, 4th in the points. He's going to make a run at it here. There's a look at your top 3.
The Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League is brought to you by General Tire. Anywhere is possible. By K&N Filters. Superior airflow, superior performance. And by E3 Spark Plugs, born to burn.
And we welcome you back here to the E3 Spark Plug Shide Diesel Extravaganza presented by Optima Batteries. We're at Terre Haute, Indiana at the action track. It's about an hour or so outside of Indianapolis, and this is Don Slama on the Fast and Furious. Of course, a former champion aside of this category, definitely knows how to make power and hang here with the big dogs. Flying the green colors here for John Deere, and he comes out here with a real solid number as well. 3:11 and 38, good enough for 3rd place.
Yeah, and some exasperated flag waving by our official at the end of the track, knowing that he made it past what was set as our full pull mark at 3:10. So we know we're guaranteed a pull-off right now with that pass by Slama.
Yeah, Ryan Anderson at 3:14, Jason Vinnie at 3:13, and now Don Slama at 3:11. So 3 tractors in the pull-off as we take a look at Jerry Barris and the pocket change. And Jerry at 3:02 and 16, it sounded like he tried to use a little bit longer gear, maybe to try and build some more wheel speed, some more ground speed, if you will, but just didn't have quite enough horsepower to get it up and going on the tire.
when to get there, you've really got to watch these guys off the line as we see Chuck Gunterberg come up here with positive ground and see if they're going to let that clutch do the work and kind of slide it out and drive it out of the hole, or if they're just going to dump it right off the line and try to pour the power to the ground.
Boy, and the violent hops there no doubt cost Chuck a bunch here this time, 3:05 and 20.
And they seem to be to the right center of the track, and so maybe if they could slingshot it a little, they could avoid that, as we've seen several competitors have to deal with them, and all they can do is just try to drive through them.
Dan Hensley and the Hurricane Deer coming up here, and I think you bring up a really good point. The one time that I had an opportunity to drive one of these tractors a number of years ago, I remember them telling me to slide that clutch out, because once you bring the RPMs down too far, these don't have enough horsepower to build that RPM back up. So you've got to slip it out, keep the RPM right where you want it, which of course keeps it in the boost as well. And the distance here for Dan Hensley, 3:13 and 56. He just edges out Don Slama by a couple of inches.
Yeah, so a good job driving here for Dan. And to your point, Ken, it's another factor that these guys have to think about, too, that if they slide it out too far and they don't pour that power into the ground, then once they get to the top end and they're really trying to spin it in and just gain as much ground as they can, and we're talking about a mere matter of inches at the end, they won't have enough power to do it. So it's a delicate balance between sliding it out and just dumping it all right off the line.
Okay, there's a look at your top three. Yes, second and third, just that close. Packed house here at the E3 Spark Plug Shy Diesel Extravaganza, presented by Optima Batteries here in Terre Haute. We're covering the Super Farm category. Just 3 hooks left on the season. 12 hooks in here at Terre Haute. Up next, Steve Creedeman on the Pale Rider. And kind of a crazy ride there for Steve as well, as he ends up at 3:02 and 71.
It seems like once the box tops off and the grouser bars on the sled start really digging in, that's when you see the hops start to develop. And, you know, he's really trying to find that balance. And there you see the sled slam forward as we ride on board. And just before it kind of slams the front with that box, that's when you see it really start to bounce.
Well, up next will be an important hook here. Michael Schnepp's going to have an opportunity to surpass Dan Vinnie. We'll find out if he can do so. But before that, let's hear what Leslie had to say to him earlier today.
It's been a pretty solid season for the Perfect Storm team, and Michael Schnepp had a little bit of a misstep in Hillsboro, but redeeming yourself in Hamburg, New York, and now coming in this weekend, it is so tight in the points. You've mathematically got an opportunity at it. You don't look like you're very confident about that. So what's your game plan coming in this weekend to try to get that edge and push your guys up there to the top again?
I tell you, I'm just going to try to lay down a nice pass tonight, and hopefully, I'll do all I can do. Dan's had a heck of a year this year, and it's going to be tough to catch him at this point in the game unless he has some really major issues. But I'm happy with the season I've had. It was kind of bummed out after the Hillsboro weekend, but that's tractor pulling. Sometimes you have a really good weekend, and sometimes you have a really bad weekend. So
it's funny how it can happen to you, but you think it can't happen to the other guy. He thinks that Dan really isn't going to have those troubles, but that's exactly what happened to him at Hillsboro. You're right, Leslie. 25 points on the first hook, 26 points on the second hook at Hillsboro, and that changed everything in terms of points. So he's currently second in the points, but he has an opportunity here as Dan Vinnie has laid up short. Oh, and he is going to take advantage of it. 3:11 and 57 is the distance for the Perfect Storm. Currently, there are 4 tractors between him and Dan Vinnie. It could be more by the time we're done here tonight.
So helpful for him, and he needs some help from the remaining guys in the category. He needs them to get up past that 3:06 mark to put some distance in between them. But a great hook here, putting himself in the pull-off, and it gives him the opportunity also to let let himself put some more distance, because if he can perform well on the pull-off and take the win, that's going to be even more tractors between them.
Well, that's exactly right. If he could steal the win here in this pull-off, it would be a game changer as Josh Miley comes up here on the Never Say Never machine. Down there a little bit deeper in the points. And he's going to end up at 3:06 and 91. Not a great number for him, but Michael Snep's like, that's perfect, man. Anything above 3:06 and 24, I'm loving it. So that's another tractor between Snep and Vinnie.
And, of course, he's going to look for some help from his teammate Peter Norton here on the Slama Enterprises machine, as, of course, they shared data to try to help out the team.
And the distance here will be 3:10.08. So add another one to the list there for Michael Snep. Nice job there for Peter Norton and the Slama Enterprises machine.
And really just a nice, smooth, methodical pass here for Norton. He kind of does slingshot it a little bit over to the left side, avoids those hops that everybody else has, and really gets the job done there with 0.08 of a foot making it into the pull-off.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter, right? How far over 3:10 you make it, you get there, you're in the show, even if it's 3:10 even. So there's a look at the top 6 that are going into the pull-off, and a number of them are players in the points.
You have players 2 through 5, so 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th all in the pull-off, along with 10th and 16th. The outlier there is the Hurricane Deer, who missed a couple hooks early on, but this is going to be a huge points weekend for those guys vying for that top spot.
And, of course, the one big name that's not in there is the guy that's leading the points. Welcome back to the E3 Spark Plug Shy Diesel Extravaganza presented by Optima Batteries. We're covering the Super Farm category here. Hook 12 on the season of 14, and we are in a pull-off situation. If you made it out over 3:10, you're in the pull-off, and Ryan Anderson on the checking out tractor is going to kick it off here. He went 3:14 and 58 on his first hook, and he was the second hook of the category. But look at the mark here, 3:21 and 71. You've got to think he's going to be a player here for the win.
Holy smokes, talk about putting up a good number here. And the deal for checking out is they've had the most time to cool down. They were the first one to put that number up there past 3:10, and so they've been in the back with the leaf blowers. They've been cooling things down. They've put fresh ice in the intercooler out there, and so really paying attention to detail as the track has developed over time. They've got people watching it out there, and so they can really concentrate on their game for that initial hook of the pull-off.
Here comes Jason Vinnie on the all cranked up. And Jason went 3:13 and 17 a little bit earlier, and he's going to go 3:16 and 75. Good enough for second place right now here in the pull-off, but again, a little further distance than we saw him initially go.
But I don't think anybody really thought that Ryan Anderson in checking out was going to wick it up as hard as he did for that initial run. But, you know, that team is very, very serious, and, you know, trying to make sure that, you know, after a really good season with PPL, finishing in the top 10, that they can really try to vie for that championship. And after they broke at Hillsboro, went back to the drawing board, picked up a 5th place finish at Hamburg, and here they are trying to pick up the win.
Here comes Don Slom on the Fast and Furious. You talked about some of the players here inside of the top 5 in the points. He is currently 5th in the points, has 3 podiums, including a win along the way. He was on the podium at our last hook. Boy, he just might be on the podium here again. 3:19 and 53, just short of Brian Anderson's mark, but good enough for second place right now.
What's really impressive about Don Slama when he comes out here to pull, though, is usually he's by himself with 2 tractors, Slama Enterprises, which Peter Norton is just the hired gun for. So he's watching the track, he's moving weights, he's loading the intercooler with ice, he's trying to decide what gear, he's going to run and placing that sled all by himself, like the one-man band out here, and still able to have such stellar performances.
He just needs to beat one of the final 3 here in the category, and he's assured a podium position. Up next will be Dan Hensley. The Hurricane Deer has really struggled all season long. This is a breakout hook for him for sure. 3:09 and 18 currently puts him 4th, but still a stellar effort here to make the pull-off and do a good job.
And this is where these guys want to be with that tractor, as they've missed those first 2 hooks because it wasn't ready, and just getting it dialed in towards the end of the season.
We talked about 6 tractors being between Michael Snepp and Dan Vinnie. He could better that mark right here. Let's find out how he does. And the mark there, 3:12 and 67. And the checking out tractor, Ryan Anderson, comes in here 3rd in the points, and he's only 6 points behind Michael Snepp. So things are really going to tighten up here and jostle around.
So the final competitor here in our pull-off, it's going to be Peter Norton on the Slama Enterprises machine. And, he's the guy that has the most data to go off here for this run from the Hurricane Motorsports team and Don Slama.
Also the hottest engine coming out of the initial hook as well. Boy, and he carries the nose right to the very end. The distance on the board for him, 3:15 and 26. He misses the podium by just a little more than a foot and a half. So Ryan Anderson on top of the box here for the 2nd time this season. Congratulations to him. The checking out machine was hopped up here today and hungry for a win. Let's go down and talk to him.
To make it in the pull-off is an amazing feat, but to be the first one out, Ryan, that had to be tough. What was your strategy kind of coming into the pull-off, knowing that things were going to be a little different out there and that you were the first one to take a stab at it?
We just wanted to lay down a really good pass. The track was about as good as it was going to get. We just wanted to make sure we had a good setup. Our weighting was perfect. Crew chief did a great job getting that thing weighted, and just a great pass.
Well, congratulations. A 2nd win here on the tour. It's definitely going to help you in the points. Congratulations to you and your team.
Thank you. I want to thank Sign Effects, Green Galvanized Stairs, Kent Payne for all his help building the tractor. Just a great team effort.
And here's a look at how they finished up there. Of course, the top 6 all making it into the pull-off, and this is how they looked after the pull-off as well. So congratulations to all the players doing a great job out here today. Don Slama on the Fast and Furious is going to make it 3 consecutive podiums. So congrats to him, and we'll go back down to the podium to talk to him.
Well, Don Slama, this is 3 podiums in a row, so I know you're excited that you've kind of finally found your groove out there and taking 2nd here tonight.
Yeah, we're really happy. This is a good track. We seem to do really well on good tracks, mediocre tracks. I think we overpower it sometimes, and we just don't do good, but we like pulling down here, and it's good. I hope we can finish strong the next 2 hooks, and, we still got a chance. When we was here last year, we was not in first place, and darn if we didn't end up in first place down to Wheatland. I'm really happy for the Andersons that he got to put ice in his tank this year in a PPL event and show the world what ice really does do.
Oh, yeah, it's a game changer for sure for that intake charge. Here's a look at the points. So Dan Vinnie is going to now be just 30 points ahead, where he had a 42-point gap over Ryan Anderson of the checking out, who jumps into 2nd. Michael Snepp falls down into 3rd, but boy, it's going to be a tight one.
Well, in the pits at Hillsboro, Jason Vinnie was a little down in the dumps, but I think some consistent finishes are going to help lift your spirits. What are some of the behind-the-scenes things that you guys have been doing to help you on this streak of podiums?
Oh, I think we finally got the chassis figured out, how to weight it and how to set it up a little bit better than what we were doing earlier in the year, and whatever we changed, it helped a little bit, I guess. So
a good team behind you to help you out. I know that you guys are both in the hunt here for this championship, and so it's got to mean a lot to be this consistent when you weren't so early in the year.
Yeah, it really pays to be consistent, especially in the game of pulling, because when you ain't got that, you ain't got much, because there's nothing you can do about luck and change that and all that stuff. And we wouldn't be where we were if it wasn't for our motor builder, Robbie Lemke, and Brandon Hart and Kevin Ingelking that does our dyno work, and Mark Korth at K3 Tire. If it wasn't for them guys, we wouldn't be anywhere.
Yeah, a little side note, too, on those points, Don Slama and Jason Vinnie were tied up coming in, so those podium positions actually separated them in the points, 4th and 5th. Pro Stock Diesel Trucks coming up next.
The Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League is brought to you by Geico, saving people money on more than just car insurance. By Spray 9, a triple threat, cleans, degreases, disinfects. And by Optima Batteries, the ultimate power source.